Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta Saphire, an attorney in Sharon.
I'm Camille Barron, a healthcare advisor and financial coordinator, also in Sharon, Massachusetts.
New England.
In New England. Now, Roberta, one of the things that sometimes surprises people is that Medicare doesn't cover certain things. And one of the biggest things that it does not cover is long-term care, meaning that if someone can no longer function independently at home and they need some help, Medicare will not cover that. It only covers things that are part of the rehab or recovery, but not anything else.
I knew you were going to ask that because we've had so many inquiries lately about please have someone on, please have someone on.
Yeah.
And we are so pleased to say that we have that someone on, Mr. Len May, and we welcome you and we appreciate your being here. And we always say start a little bit by telling us about yourself.
Oh, thank you. Camille and Roberta. I do specialize in long-term care planning and insurance. I'm independent. I represent over 10 different companies. Most of my career, though, I was in high tech, holding senior level financial planning and marketing positions. So you might ask, how did I get into this? So the way I did, approximately when I was in my mid-40s, I had taken over my parents' financial affairs. I have an MBA from Sloan's, so thought I was very smart at all of this. I was doing a fairly good job. And then one of my sister-in-laws said to me, you know, Len, your parents should really have a long-term care policy. So I looked into it, seemed a little bit expensive, but I had my parents apply. My father, unfortunately, was not accepted because he has a combination of diabetes and heart-related issues, which the insurance companies don't like, but my mother was. Long story short, we paid the premium for 10 years, and then unfortunately, my mother was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, and she quickly qualified to go on claim, meaning the insurance company would start paying the benefits to her. So it was so helpful. It enabled my parents to live in a beautiful assisted living facility. They got 3 good meals a day.
Both of them, even though your father didn't qualify?
Yes, because they were living in a 1-bedroom apartment, which had a nice living room and a little kitchen too, and the policy was large enough to cover all of it. So they got good meals. My mother had assistance with her activities of daily living. My dad just had to pay a little out of pocket to have his sugar level tested and get his insulin shots. They made a lot of friends there. And again, they got very good care. So this went on for 4 years until my mother passed away. At the end of the 4 years, I calculated how much the policy paid out in benefits versus how much we had paid in premiums, and it paid out $155,000 more in benefits than we paid in premiums. So at this point, I was in my 50s. I was ready for a career change from high tech. So I decided this would be a wonderful career for me to help other people. So I took the licensing exams to become licensed in Massachusetts and did 300 extra hours to become certified in long-term care. And here I am.
Okay.
That's interesting. So that's long-term care insurance.
Yes. So if you're not familiar with the definition of long-term care, I could go into exactly what long-term care is. Would that be
please
helpful?
do. Please
So
do. Now also, what age should somebody start thinking about whatever this is?
generally mid-50s is a good age. And the reason is for the insurance itself, the younger you are, the less expensive it is. So you actually save money by looking into it earlier. And the other reason is you have to be fairly healthy to be approved. So unfortunately, one of my biggest troubles I have in my practice, a lot of people wait until they have something wrong with them health-wise, and then they try to apply and they won't be approved. You have to do it while you're healthy and not wait until you actually need the care.
Okay. And did you want to just describe what we mean by long-term care? Because it's not just insurance.
Exactly. So long-term care is the supervision or assistance a person needs because they need help with the activities of daily living, like bathing, dressing, toileting, incontinence, eating, preparing meals, all those kind of things. And the reasons they might need assistance could be because they're ill, could be because they've had a bad fall.
Or they're spoiled by their wives.
Spoiled. Could be because they were in an automobile accident. It could often be just because they've gotten older and frail and need help. Another major reason is a lot of people are affected by some form of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, and they need somebody there to watch over them and help take care of them. But whatever the reason is, a long-term care event is really a life-changing event because it's going to affect the person's physical condition, and it's going to affect their emotional state and their finances, obviously, because long-term care is very expensive. And usually it affects not only the person needing help, but also the family as well.
Well, you go by, they used to call them nursing homes. They don't call them that. What do they call them? Retirement homes now?
Retirement communities.
Retirement communities, things like that. If you were driving by a facility, what would you expect to see as the name outside?
Well, there are different
different?
kinds of facilities. There's nursing homes. Nursing homes provide skilled nursing care. And then at a lower level of need are the assisted living facilities.
Oh, is this called assisted living?
Some are called
Long-term care?
assisted living facilities. And then there's these communities that are somewhat new that are called universal care facilities. So people often go in when they really don't need much care, and then as they need care, they would move to the assisted living unit, and then later on to the nursing unit if they needed it.
I always wondered, do these people, you ever see these ads, we will buy your life insurance? This seems like it would go hand in hand with the life insurance. The people are getting ready to go in assisted living, and I always wondered, how is that legal to buy somebody else's life insurance? Because you sell your life insurance to them and then you meet with an accident 5 minutes later, somebody's collecting on your life insurance. I mean, doesn't that seem funny?
Yeah, I really don't get involved
You don't
in
get
that.
involved in
I
that?
would just issue a warning on that. You have to be very careful because you're selling your life insurance for a lot less than what the death benefit is. So I typically advise people not to get involved in that.
So can you tell our viewers why is planning for the possible need of long-term care so important, especially now in today's times?
It is very important now, and I'm going to use just a couple charts to show why,
Okay, sure.
if I can. And the first gets into demographics, and bear with me, I'm just going to show you a couple statistics up on the chart. And the first one shows that life expectancy is increasing. The second point is the number of Americans over 80. So, as you know, our population is aging pretty quickly. We're in the baby boom generation.
Yeah.
We're baby boomers. So in 2010, there were 9 million people over the age of 80. In 2050, 40 years from now, that will triple to 27 million people will be over the age
Fascinating.
Wow,
of
look
80.
at that.
Fascinating.
In 2010, 11 million people over 65 were disabled. In 2030, that will grow to 18 million. Now there are roughly 5.8 million people diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. By 2050, that's projected to be 14 million. So why am I showing you these statistics? Because, and these are from AARP, the number of caregivers per person that are going to need care is going to drop dramatically. In other words, there won't be enough people to help take care of us. In fact,
It's a good place to find a job then.
it
for these
is.
people.
Just yesterday in the Boston Globe, I saw this headline, which I'll quote from, said, quote, nursing homes fear coronavirus could aggravate the severe staff shortages. Long-term care facilities in Massachusetts already face a severe shortage of care workers. So as the baby boomer generation gets older and older, the shortage is going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's one factor why it's critical that people look into it and plan ahead when they're young. The other is the actual cost of care. And I'm going to show on the next chart the cost of care in the Boston area. So what these numbers are the monthly cost of care in Boston. And if you look at the bottom, it's talking about nursing home. So nursing homes in the Boston area typically run for a private room between $13,000 and $14,000 a month. A semi-private room around $12,600. So if you project for a full year, you're around $130,000 for 1 year in a nursing home.
But this, excuse me, would this be true in every state or wherever you go? I mean, it's got to be comparable in other states.
Actually, it's not. Unfortunately, New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts are the three most expensive states for long-term care.
Really?
For nursing homes. Yep. So if you go to Texas or
That's
to
involved.
Florida, Roberta, you'll be paying roughly like 60 to 70% for your care. So just going up the chart, assisted living facilities typically run around $6,500 a month without any additional services, like if you're incontinent or if you need help with your medications. Home health aides run $27 to $28 an hour. So if you need care, for example, for 44 hours a week, which is 3 hours in the morning to get you up and going, 3 hours to feed you and bed you at night, that's going to run around $6,000 a month. So I did a quick calculation. If you were to need 3 years in assisted living and 1 year in a nursing home, it would cost approximately $385,000 in today's dollars. 15 years from now, it could be twice that amount.
Yikes.
Yep, because the cost of care keeps going up. So
Time to move.
for those, yep, it's not a bad idea. But for those two reasons, given the demographics, that so many people are going to need care and we're not going to have enough caregivers, and given the cost of care being so expensive, especially in the Boston area, you really have to start planning for this early, like in your 50s and 60s.
And what are some of the options?
So people ask me all the time, what are my options? There are 4 categories of options. The first is the family, the second, the government, the third, using your own savings, and the fourth is long-term care insurance. So the first option, going back 50, 75 years was the option that most people used, which is the family. So when parents needed care, who do you think typically provided that care? Typically, it was the daughter, like an unmarried daughter, or the oldest daughter. Again, we're talking 50, 70 years ago. But now, of course, women like yourselves have your own careers and are tied up with that. Often the children will have moved away to a different locale. My clients have kids anywhere from Tokyo to London to New York to San Francisco, Hawaii. So, our kids are getting spread out. They're not always going to be right there to help take care of us. In terms of the spouse helping out, say the husband needs help, it would be difficult physically for the wife to lift up her husband, bathe him, dress him, and so on. It can be physically challenging. In terms of dementia, this is a tough one. The Alzheimer's Association says that in 1 out of 3 cases, the caregiver actually passes away before the person
Really?
with dementia. Yeah, very sad. And the reason is taking care of somebody with dementia is very stressful. I give classes on long-term care planning all over the Boston area, and I've had several people come in who said they had to take care of their spouse, either until the spouse died or they had to put them in a nursing home because it is so stressful. So, in summary, people go into nursing homes when the family caregiver just can't do it anymore, unfortunately. They give out, so the last resource is the nursing home. The
Doesn't a
government,
nursing home pay, like if people, like these people, they have no money, they put them in a nursing home, what do they call that, Medicaid?
yeah, and I'll get into that in 1 minute.
Oh, okay.
In fact, since you raised it, there are 2 programs related to long-term care. Just so people understand, like Camille, you mentioned at the very beginning, Medicare is really for doctor bills, hospital bills, all the lab work, all the actual medical care. It's not for long-term care. So I'm glad you discussed that at the beginning. Medicaid, like you're asking about, Roberta, you have to spend down your assets to qualify to go on Medicaid. In Massachusetts, Medicaid is referred to as Mass Health. So to qualify for Mass Health, if you're a single person, you would have to spend down your assets to $2,000. If you're a couple, the person needed care, their assets would have to go to $2,000. The spouse, called the community spouse, would have to spend down their assets to $125,000. And then when income comes in from Social Security or whatever, the person needed care can only keep $1,100 a month. All the rest of the income, whether it's from a pension or Social Security or whatever, is taken away by Medicare. By Medicaid or Mass Health. So there's problems, for people who really can't afford care. Medicare is really can be a lifesaver to help them get end-of-life care when they need help. But for other people, you really want to try to avoid at all possible costs ending up on Medicaid or Mass Health, because the facilities, they only keep a certain number of rooms for Mass Health patients. And the reason is they're going to be paid much, much less than people who have insurance, long-term care insurance, or who are paying out of their own pocket are going to be paying. So it's one, difficult to get a good room when you're on Mass Health in a facility. And two, when you do get a room, you will be sharing it with one or two other people when you're on Mass Health, typically.
We're getting towards the end of the time we have, because it does go by
Oh.
fast. But
Yeah?
can you
I didn't
talk a
even
little
know.
bit about the major risks that people face later in life? We know that one of the biggest risks is outliving your retirement assets,
Okay.
right? But can you talk a little bit
Sure.
about that?
And here's the next slide on that you're looking at. So in the middle of the slide, I put what's really important to us at this stage in our life, which is our family, our home, and our nest egg assets we worked so hard all the years to save up for. So the major risk, at this point in our life, there could be a short-term health issue, but in Massachusetts, we have to carry medical insurance, so we're covered for that. There could be an auto accident, but again, we're insured for that in Massachusetts. Most people own property like a house or a condo have homeowners insurance. But Susie Orman, do you know Susie Orman? Yes. So she's a financial advisor. You see her on PBS a lot.
Right.
And what she says is there's only a 1 out of 1,200 chance of there being a major claim on your homeowner's policy. Because there's a fire or a tree falls down
right.
on your house or something like
That's
that.
interesting.
But she goes on to say that there's a 70% chance,
Oh,
and
man.
this is put out by the government, the Department of Health and Human Services says there's a 70% chance that once you're over 65, you will need long-term care. So what she advises is that everybody over 55 who can afford long-term care insurance should look into long-term care insurance and if possible take out a policy. How does that help? One, it's going to protect your family. If you need care, you're not going to end up being a burden on your family. The number one reason my clients tell me they want a policy is so that they don't end up burdening their kids. Often because these are women who had to take care of their parents and they don't want their kids to have to do the same thing for them. Secondly, it will protect your home. And most importantly, it will protect your retirement savings, the policy. So that's why Susie Orman and 90% of financial advisors recommend long-term care policies.
Now, we are sure that not all policies are alike.
Right.
What are some of the factors or what are features that people should be looking at if they do want to explore long-term care insurance?
Okay.
Good
So
question.
that's a good question. One, because the cost of care does keep going up every year, you want a policy that has inflation protection. So what that means is every year the benefits associated with your policy will increase, but your premium will not. The premium would be locked in and stay the same. Secondly, you want a policy that provides care management service. This is like a case manager so that when you need help, you go and claim. These people will help assess your needs and actually find caregivers for you, whether it's home health aides or a therapist or a nurse. You don't have to go with their recommendations, but it's great to have them help find them for you. And they'll also monitor your care. If there's any problem at all, they will help resolve that. And then third, another thing that's important is you want to go with a company that's been in long-term care for, I would say, at least 20 years to reflect that they're really dedicated to the field. And
Do you pay by the year or the month,
well,
or how is that done?
yeah, I'll go through that. In fact, I was just going to get into the premium.
I'm ready to say you've got to be kidding me. You hit that premium.
The premium, you can pay on an annual basis or quarterly, semi-annual basis. So the last point, Roberta, is just what I was going to talk about. You obviously want a reasonable premium. So what I do when I go out and meet with clients and recommend a given policy, I'll also show them what the comparable policies would cost from the other insurers in Massachusetts, so they can do
What
comparison
policies?
analysis. I'm sorry.
What kind of policies? Capo?
Oh, comparable.
Oh,
Sorry.
comparable, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
comparable
Yeah, I didn't
policy.
get it.
So they can see what other policies would cost
Oh,
in
interesting.
Massachusetts. So those are the key things you want: inflation protection, care management, reasonable premium, and a company that's been doing this for 20 years or so.
Boy, you got to know your stuff, and you obviously do.
Yeah,
It's-
I do this full time, so I study it quite a bit. In fact, a lot of financial advisors refer people to me because they have confidence that I do know what I'm doing. I read all the policies, I do the comparisons between companies.
How many different
so on.
companies are there? Are there many?
Well, in terms of just straight long-term care insurance, not combined with life insurance or not combined with annuity, there are really, in Massachusetts, just like 4 companies available. What happened is 10, 15 years ago, there were around 80 companies.
Really?
And this is the only area of insurance in the history of insurance where companies have lost a lot of money and the policyholders made out, like my mother did, because she got a
Oh.
lot in benefits.
Is this true for all over the country? Is
Yes,
this
yeah, it's
going
true
on?
all over the country. So the vast majority of these companies stopped writing new policies. They stopped selling the insurance. Of course, they still honor the policies that they
Boy.
wrote before.
And you're not
So-
kidding either.
So now there
oh
are
my
just
goodness.
a few left. Yep.
It's
Yeah, they, at the
fascinating.
time, they weren't really anticipating the claims that they were going to be getting. They underpriced it. And so because of that, some companies, like Len said, some companies stopped offering it anymore.
Oh,
and
really?
others raised their rates
Well, there's more
significantly.
facilities that offer this now too, right? But what would an average run? Like 10,000 a month, or
We've got to wrap
10,000
up
a
our show
year?
now.
Oh, you're kidding.
I'm
Boy,
sorry,
this
what?
really went
We're
by.
going to have to wrap things up
Oh,
because
okay.
we're just about done.
Oh boy,
Okay.
did that go by
I knew it would go
fast.
That did go fast.
Yeah,
But,
fascinating.
That's fine, and that it went
Sick
fast,
life.
but certainly not the end of the conversation because, as we always say to our viewers, that we
Right.
appreciate your watching the show. And if you have any questions about this topic, please send us an email and we'll make sure that Len gets it and provides you the responses. There's so much more information that we didn't have time to cover today.
Yes.
So please let us hear from you because remember, this is your show, The Law, Your Money, and you.